would be in the developing skill category? Because that was a
Yeah.
couple people said that they're struggling the most with developing skill. So what would you say to that?
Yep. I tell people this, and listen, guys, I come to you as the humble hypocrite that I am. I struggle and I fail with all these things, and I'm full of hypocrisy. And future Brian is utterly ashamed of the things I'm about to say, probably. All right. But that's the way it works. So I would say this, that most people, when they train, they avoid the place they fear. They simply won't do the work that they fear the most. And when they say they don't want to do something and they dislike something, that's usually the one place they need to go do the work. And I had a good incident of a gentleman in class, and he has trained very hard in dry fire, and he is exceptionally quick now. Unfortunately, he did not prioritize actually getting immediate feedback out of his training. He just prioritized speed. So what happened is he can shoot really quick without seeing anything. And what he fears is to actually pay attention because he is impatient by nature and he just wants to do. He doesn't want to see. And we're all afraid of that. We're all on our own hero's journey, and we have a place that we're deathly afraid of. I'll share mine. I'm deathly afraid of being out of control. I've become such a controlling personality and structured that it showed up in my shooting. And I just don't want to let go sometimes. But if I trust myself, which I do, why don't I simply do the work and let go? And that's where the fear is, because something may happen that I'm not in control of. Well, that's good. That's where the growth is. So I've spent the last 3 weeks doing things I don't enjoy as much in shooting, like running around and shooting multiple targets. I'm very fortunate I can do all these things, but really just pushing myself so that I'm going to the place I fear. And it has had unintended consequences. It's amazing. I had a 9-month plateau I just overcame. I was told my splits would never get faster by people I was very much admired and respected, and they were wrong. Because I was simply, and maybe they are too, afraid to go to the place that allowed me to have this sort of tolerance to speed. And the fear was lack of control. So I'd say if you want to train right, you got to identify who you really are. I taught a class last weekend, and I had everybody doing a self-assessment. They gave me all their scores in shooting, and then they told me about who they were psychologically, and then they told me how they handled stress. And then we did the whole day of training, and then we went look back at it, and I said, were any of you right? And they were like, no. The gathering of metrics during the day started showing somebody else existed in that moment. So if you want to train well, you got to figure out what you don't want to really do. And then you got to crawl in that cave and do the work. You got to fight that dragon and get the treasure, whatever hero story appears to you. But that's part of what struggling is doing things that are fearful. And I would never want to be without fear. It's what makes me feel alive. It's what's empowering me. It's what allows me to be fearlessness in my life. It doesn't mean I have an absence of fear. It means I relish it and I look forward to it and I try to get ahead of it. And I try to face it because that's the challenge. And if I ever find myself without this feeling, I'm simply going to stop doing what I'm doing. I'll do something else that challenges me.
Yeah, because you'll get bored.
Mm-hmm.
So what if you were to explore that dark black hole with a little bit of curiosity rather than just
Yes.
outward fear? What if you said to yourself, what if I tried this? I mean, because you can dip your toe in as deep as you want to in order to start, seeing where your limitations are mentally or physically or whatever. But if you never try to reach those limitations or operate on the edge of your comfort, then you never can grow.
Practice is a microcosm of our life. It's a very small sliver. So if we're really afraid of something, it's a very small bit of it. One of the greatest things about training in something like jiu-jitsu is one of the primal fears is the lack of space, of suffocation, of claustrophobia. And the first lesson in jiu-jitsu is you're not going to die by pressure. You're going to learn to create space, and you're going to learn how to breathe. Because it's such a small thing and it's so well controlled, you can actually explore this and you can desensitize yourself to it so it's not overwhelming anymore.
Mhm.
And you can face it a little bit. And then the way you refrain from failure, most people are utterly afraid of failure. That's the biggest thing that they fear, I found out. They just don't want to do poorly. And we've run into a culture that, especially in America, is all positive talk. Self-talk is positive. It's not,
Mhm.
though. It's 3-1
Mhm.
negative upstairs.
Mhm.
And
Thank
by
you for saying that out loud.
yeah, it always will be. It was kind of important in survival. Is that a bear? I think it's a bear. Well, no, it's a bush, but thank God I'm ready, right? You know,
Yeah.
we had to err on the side of caution all the time. So we're inherently negative creatures, but how we deal with failure is the most important part. And the way that we debrief ourselves afterwards and we say, what did I learn from this situation? What can I take from it? Where am I moving towards is the way we do it. But most people say, I failed. That's no good. It can't happen again. And
Mhm.
that's the absence of fear. And to take a line from Dune, fear is the mind killer. As self-defenders, if we allow the fear to take hold of us and we can't face such a small goal as, like mine shooting fast, how can I face an opponent that's willing to do it to me, to
Mhm.
dictate the pace of the fight?